Hello, coronavirus victims, and welcome back to Honor Thy Podcast. This is the somewhat weekly, somewhat consistent, somewhat inconsistent DC TV Arrowverse podcast, and I am your host, Dec, from DC Central, or maybe not anymore. And with me, as always, is Dan McCanns, who is still Moonkick Media.
Yeah, still just about, even though I haven't uploaded a video in 2 months.
Yeah, but you're in uni, so I guess we can let you off, and you are dealing with coronavirus, so, what can we do?
I know, it's painful up here in Manchester. Everyone's got it now, to be fair, so it's a tough life I'm living up here.
Yeah, he's been thrown in with all the Super Corp shippers. Yeah. Yeah, we were having a good old laugh about that. Right, so what we're going to do is talk about the big event, the big event that has been going on in the Arrowverse. Of course, Arrow, the granddaddy of this entire universe. It's gone. It's ended. That's it. Kiboshed. Done. Finito. And with that, we want to talk about the finale. Was it satisfying? Was it not? I know where I stand.
Yep.
And we're also going to talk about Season 8 as a whole and why it's the worst season of the show. So let's get into it.
Automatically there, you're wrong. We can mark that against you.
Oh, we shall see.
Oh, we shall. You're telling me this is worse than Season 4. You seriously do need to go see a therapist. You've definitely got coronavirus if you seriously think this is worse than Season 4.
You wait until my ranking video comes out tonight and you shall see.
It doesn't matter. I've already seen it on Twitter.
Maybe it's changed.
Nah.
That was on Friday. That tweet was on Friday. It's now Monday. Also,
we're
recording this on Monday, which is very odd. It's throwing me off.
Well, it's not my fault that you're not available for the weekends.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have a social life.
Oh, so do I, but I can still make time for it because man's living on 50 quid a week.
Oh dear. Well. Oh, I actually was meant to ask. Have you seen the season premiere of Legends?
Wow. I knew this again. I forgot to watch. To be fair,
I mean, it's not on the schedule.
Good. Like, no, I was going to just for the sakes of like, if it's borderline average or shit, I wouldn't watch the rest of the season. But to be honest with you, I completely forgot. I'll definitely watch it, but I don't know. I haven't really got much enthusiasm for it. I mean, the fact that I'm willing to give it up after the first episode of this season kind of tells you everything.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it and I thought it was pretty bad. I don't think it quite reached the lows of season 4, but still pretty bad. I'm going to see this episode just because I want to see what they're going to do with Zari and her character, but yeah, I can't say I'm going to stick around the rest of the season. I can't say I'm that convinced yet. Yeah. I mean, they're already taking the piss out of Oliver's death, so yeah, that was...
What, did they actually do that?
Yeah, they kind of...
Fuck that. I ain't watching them.
Yeah, so I was a bit like, that's not...
Yeah, like you go from the last episode of Crisis where you have like Sarah mourning Oliver, then the next episode, oh yeah, she's just in an environment where they're taking a piss out of it. No,
luckily Sarah's not the problem. Like, Sarah's not the one taking the mick. If that was the case, that'd be like a line too far crossed. Like, there is actually a good scene about it, but yeah, for the most of the time, it's just like, it's the fact that we've gone from Crisis, which was like the most devastating event in the Arrowverse, and then Legends goes straight back to its stupid old shit. I couldn't be bothered. So anyway, let's talk about the Arrow series finale, the season 8 finale, otherwise entitled Fade Out. This episode takes place after the events of Crisis, after the death of Oliver Queen. This basically wraps up the stories of the side characters of the show. We get to see his funeral, and we get to see people brought back to life, etc. So, what are your overall thoughts on Fade Out?
I thought it was a good finale. I don't think it was a great finale or a great episode, because there were quite a few issues that I did have with the episode. But I think overall, given the predicament they were in, we're trying to end this show in this already bigger universe and trying to end one show as part of it on a network where you can't have like an extended finale or anything to like have extra time to be able to tell this last story of your show. I wasn't really expecting anything great from it. In fact, I kind of worried that it was going to be a little bit mediocre. So I ended up being quite surprised. Like, again, I don't think it's a great episode, and I've seen the IMDb scores, and like the fact this episode's got like a 9.7 or a 9.8, that is way overblown. It's not that good. But I did enjoy myself with it, but I definitely can't deny that it has got problems with it. But I just overall, I did enjoy it a lot. I enjoyed a lot of the stuff they had in it, the characters they brought back, and just overall the amount of stuff they were able to get within the episode. So yeah, I think I'm a bit more positive than it compared to the other man on this podcast who I'm pretty sure thinks it's the worst thing to ever happen since the coronavirus.
It's worse than coronavirus. I think this episode... No, look, right. This episode is not bad. It's not... I don't like...
No, you do shot, man.
I don't hate the episode. I don't hate it. There's things in it I hate. There's things in it I heavily dislike. But there's things in it I quite like as well. But as an overall finale, and as a series finale, as a wrap-up, this is dumb. This is dumb. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. It negates the consequences of the show. It ends in a place that isn't even Arrow anymore, and I'm just so angry.
I told you we were too invested in this show.
I can't help it. Imagine Banshee ended like this, and then you come back to me. This was something.
Yeah, but the difference is Banshee didn't end like this. It ended with a 10 out of 10 masterpiece of an episode.
Yeah, exactly. So I have the right.
That's why I've been telling you for the whole time. Banshee is the better show.
Yeah, and that's why I have the right to complain. I've seen what a 10 out of 10 finale is like. I have the right to complain about this. But one thing I will talk about, what I did like, even though it does come with a negative, of course, is the flashbacks in this episode. I liked the fact that they brought back flashbacks for this final episode, as flashbacks are such an integral part of this show. It felt right as the final episode to kind of have them in there, especially because it really added a lot of kind of finishing touches to Oliver and Diggle's arc.
Yeah.
I liked it kind of them refining their relationship and kind of tying up in that little bow. It felt nice. And also that fight scene, James Bamford,
that was awesome.
Oh my god, knocked it out of the park. Like, as his final directorial effort for the show and his final time doing like a big stunt fight scene, it's one of his best. And it felt so satisfying because this was season 1 Oliver just going around murdering people. It was awesome.
When he could literally just like take on crews of people and just absolutely destroy them. Like it was just so good. And it was like it only really hit me kind of halfway through the fight where I was realizing, oh yeah, he's killing people. Yeah. Well, I didn't really care.
I miss Oliver when he actually used his bow. He doesn't.
Oh, stop this now. Stop this bullshit argument right now.
It's going to come out, right? In season 1, it shows in this fight scene, he's killing everyone with arrows. He doesn't do that anymore. And it's really boring.
He does defeat people with arrows. You clearly haven't been watching this season. He still uses his bow and arrow.
He barely is in the suit this season, but that's a different argument. Right?
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Right? But the negative that comes with these flashbacks is while they're great and while they're entertaining and I like the acting within them, we wouldn't need these flashbacks if this season as a whole actually spent the time to wrap up their story in the first place, and we didn't actually have to resort to this because it feels lazy, it feels forced, and it feels sloppy.
No, this isn't. It doesn't. It's not.
The season didn't have the intelligence to wrap up their story within its own time. It's absolutely abysmal.
No. It makes sense within this finale because this whole finale is a tribute to the show from the beginning to the end. The flashbacks are one of the most integral parts of the whole show, hence why they are in the finale, because it is harkening back to the roots of the show.
Yeah, and I said
that is why it's there.
It's a hidden message. It's like in a game. It's like when you're playing a game and you watch a cutscene and they have a loading screen hidden within the cutscene. That's what this is. This is the TV representation of that. This is the TV representation of the cutscenes in Max Payne 3. And that is a comparison you never thought you'd hear. But here we have it. It's a first on a Die podcast.
I think you no, I don't agree with this. Because they always planned it though. They always planned for this to be in here. They even planned for Felicity to be in them. The only difference is that she weren't in them, so they just had to make them about Oliver and Diggle. And like, yeah, I get what you mean about them. Like, I think in terms of how they linked them to the present day, wasn't the greatest way. In that they just had the same guy that Oliver was targeting in the flashbacks reappear again, all these years later. Like, I didn't love that, but I think the flashbacks in of themselves were good because not only did they work from giving us the action in this finale, because literally, if you take out those flashbacks, there's no action in here at all, really, other than Mia confronting that guy on the rooftop, and also
backflip from Roy.
Well, yeah, one last backflip from Roy, but as well because obviously with the storyline that they gave Oliver and Diggle and kind of the wrap up there with those characters. But I felt like that was good because it kind of adds more to season 1 because, you know, you go back and you watch that season. You know, obviously it helps show the development in Oliver going from someone who's just intent on killing all the people on the list to realizing that he doesn't have to always do that. You know, he doesn't have to go about it this one single way. But like I say, there are problems with it, but I think you like I say, you just manage just pitching about it too much. Like, you need to calm down, son.
No.
The fact you compared it to Max Payne 3 is something that I don't think I'll ever forget.
I mean, Max Payne 3 is better than this season. But
No.
this leads me to talk about the returning characters. Returning characters is always an exciting thing. I mean, this is a comic book world. We're used to that. Although, can I just say, this is one of the most inconsistent things because, and I love how the show even points this out. Like, we literally have a scene where we look at all these characters who are back. This is in the funeral scene, and we have Thea and Moira stood over Robert's grave saying, "Oh, why didn't you bring Robert back?" Which I thought, you know what, Thea? Good question. And Moira responds, very off the cuff, because that's clearly how this was written, saying, "Oh, I guess he could only bring back people who didn't change him, and that's why."
Yeah, that I will agree with.
So
Makes
why
no
is
sense.
Tommy alive then?
Yeah.
And also, in talking about inconsistencies, Earth One Laurel still dead. That's pretty harsh. And also, I mean, I guess they neither confirmed nor denied this, but where's Samantha Clayton? Did you just not bring back the mother of your son?
I think it would have been better had they just left that scene out. Had they not bothered trying to explain it, because the explanation they give just creates more problems.
And also, there's another problem that comes with it. Bringing back these people negates the consequences of the show. Moira's
Because our main characters still remember these events. But our main characters still remember these events. They still remember everything that happened within them. So they still feel the consequences of it because they still lived through it. They still remember what's happened. If the characters didn't remember the events of the previous seasons, then I'd have right to complain. But the fact that they've made it that all of our principal heroes and even the people that were brought back know about this, therefore they did that so that we still have those feelings towards these characters, and they aren't completely negated because it still happened. These events still happened. It doesn't matter if this takes place in an alternate universe. These events still happened, and the characters still know that these events happened. Oh my god!
He says, "Oh, I've just found out there's a timeline where I died." He doesn't know. He's just lived his life. So, and we even saw that from the opening scene of this episode where they used that deleted scene from season 2. They basically rewrote the timeline. Rewrote the timeline. Like, Oliver saved Moira. And clearly,
yeah, and then she was informed afterwards, and then she was probably informed afterwards by someone.
Yeah, they were informed afterwards, but that's not the same.
Oh my god!
Like, what was the point of having these characters die and have these big moments for Oliver as a character if they're just gonna bring him back in this finale in like a last-minute scene? What was the point? I mean, granted, I love seeing these characters back. Moira's one of my favorites. We all love Tommy. Bloody love Quentin. Always will. Quentin, my hero. But what was the point? What was the point of them dying? What's the point of their meaning of their deaths? Nothing. They've just been brought back for no reason.
Yeah, I agree. I like I say, I don't think it's perfect the way that they did it, but I liked it because of how symbolically they had everybody there who would influence Oliver's journey being there for the end at his funeral. I think it was just that the way that they had to create an excuse for these characters to exist, given what they ended up doing in Crisis. Like, I will agree with you in regards of like that. The planning out is non-existent. They clearly didn't plan this properly at all because, like you say, when you look at it like that and you try and go in depth into it, yeah, it is stupid and it doesn't make any sense. But the thing is, for me,
like, what about Emiko? Like, Emiko's brought back. So was she evil in this new timeline, or was she just fine?
I don't know. But then again, it's just like, in 40 minutes, how much realistically were you expecting them to answer in all 40 minutes?
They wouldn't have that problem if they would have actually spent the time in the season to actually iron out the creases and actually wrap up the story. Because that brings up my next point, which is this season. Well, this isn't really a problem with the. I'll dive more into this when we talk about the season, but the season as a whole had no character development. So when it comes down to this finale, it's trying to rush so much development, which, like you say, they don't have the time to do. But they wouldn't have that issue if they would have actually spent the time in the season to do that. So I feel like with people like Emiko, there was so much to explain with her coming back, but they don't do anything. And I think that's a really big issue.
Yeah, but the thing is, for me, I didn't like Emiko as a character anyway, so I didn't really give a shit, to be perfectly honest.
Shit or not, I think they need to be better at explaining stuff like that, because it just comes across as a massive hole left open and something they'll never explain unless she shows up in a spin-off, which, I mean, again, this is something I'll get to later on, but we might not even get that spin-off. So it hasn't been picked up yet, so it's kind of this thing where we don't know what's going to happen with that. I will say one thing that's absolutely perfect about this finale, though. Absolutely perfect. Have no complaints whatsoever. Ragman comes back.
Yeah, but he says fuck all and contributes nothing. He literally only has one. He has one scene where he uses his rags and actually has dialogue. Apart from that, he's awful. That automatically tells you the fact that we can't agree on anything, because this man sat here jerking off to Ragman, yet is going so analytically dissective on every other thing that he hates about this episode. That should tell you automatically that nobody is going to agree. All right.
Look, everyone knows on this podcast how much I love Ragman. I was so happy.
It doesn't matter. He did nothing. His whole storyline was based on a stupid plot line that they wrote in season 4 of our dumbass fucking hacker Felicity destroying an entire town. Bam. He's just no. And now you're never going to see him again. And now you're never going to see him again. And he probably had about what? I'll be willing to bet that he didn't have any more than what? 10 lines of dialogue in between his last appearance in season 5 and the 2 appearances he's had since. He's probably had no more than 10 lines of dialogue.
I mean, it was a bit more screen time than we got in the season 7 episode, so there is that. And that was absolutely perfect. Okay, I'll give you another positive. One thing I liked, and this is a genuine one. I mean, by the way, I am completely genuine about Ragman. Love him, but this is an actual genuine one. I loved how they handled Roy and Thea. That I really liked. Bringing them back together, again, rushed, but it was nice to actually give them that kind of condolence meeting point and actually to have them engaged. I thought that was great. They are one of the better couples on the show. To end them like that, I wanted them to have a happy ending because it just makes so much sense for them. Roy has been on such a journey in the show, so has Thea, to be fair. So I think that it makes sense for them to end in that way. And also Roy had a badass prosthetic arm, which I knew about. But awesome stuff. I like that a lot. So there you go. There's a full positive with no negatives towards it, except for that it was rushed.
Oh my god. All right, then what about Diggle then? You liked what they did with Diggle in this episode?
I liked what they did with Diggle in this, yes. I think that the funeral scene, when Felicity says to Diggle, it should be you, I was like, yes, it bloody should be. I was half convinced that they were going to give it to Mia, but they didn't, thank the Lord. Clearly there is a God. Diggle comes out and he gets to do this big final speech, this big final monologue. And, I mean, Diggle was kind of the main character in this episode, which I really liked. Diggle is kind of the best character on the show, he always has been. So to kind of put him in the central position for this final episode, as Oliver was not in it, really, was perfect for me. I really love that. And I think that he really drove the emotion behind the episode. His speeches were so heartfelt because it really did feel like it was just David Ramsey talking about Steven. Not really the characters, which I think really shone through. So yeah, I really like what they did with Diggle. I do like what they did with Diggle, and I think that again, while I could have done with more time throughout the season, because I do feel like Diggle was sidelined as a whole. In terms of his wrap up, I think it's good enough. And I'm happy to see where he may go in the future.
Yeah. I thought Diggle was good in this episode. Like you say, him being the person to give the speech at Oliver's funeral felt right because he's been there with him since the beginning. He's the first person who worked with Oliver, so it only felt right. And the Green Arrow, the Green Lantern team we had at the end was made it even better. It was so good to see that, just because of the way they paid it off from what they set up in Elseworlds. And I think just his overall role in this episode was just very, very good. And yeah, David Ramsey was very good. because there were just numerous points where you could just see that Diggle's just on the break of crying, and whenever Diggle cries, I cry.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
I think that just having Diggle as the central kind of protagonist just made so much sense, and it just was brilliant. I loved it. And yeah, the Green Lantern thing was cool. The fact I still cannot believe they've actually done it. Like the fact that it's been this fan theory since season 1 that they started to tease last season, and now we've actually got it. I mean, we don't actually see the ring, we don't see him put it on, but you know, it's the closest we were gonna get on this. Like, you know, we all know what Warner Brothers are like. They weren't actually going to allow him to suit up or anything. It depends where we'll see him next. Like, obviously, we know he's moving to Metropolis. There is a Superman show coming. There is a Green Lantern show coming. Maybe he could go to that. I mean, Greg Berlanti's behind that, so there could be a connection there. Or he could show up in the next crossover, maybe. There's a lot of potential for Diggle. We do know he's actually on The Flash this week, but from what I hear, that episode takes place before this one, from what I've heard. So he hasn't actually got the ring yet. Could be wrong. They could be like misleading us, and maybe we actually see him like suit up and team up with Barry. He won't. But you know, I'm very excited to see what they do with him in the future. Just because it does kind of leave it open for him to return, and you know, Diggle kind of almost being a legacy character on the show, he's still got a place within the universe. So that's cool to see. But I mean, in regards to like other characters, like I don't understand why they didn't explain the diner thing. Like, I thought this was going to be where we got our explanation for Dinah going to the future, but we get nothing. She actually goes to other cities, according to this. But what's interesting is I've read an article recently, or I saw a tweet or something, that apparently the Green Arrow and the Canary spin-off, should it go forward, will have its own flashbacks, and these flashbacks are going to be Dinah-centric.
There you go, get a development for Dinah, for once.
For once, yeah. I mean, I actually really liked her in the Backdoor pilot. She was my favourite part of it. But I again, it feels weird to me why they didn't explain that, because it was just, like, she literally says, oh, it happens immediately after the funeral. Well, clearly it doesn't, because you've gone. you've sodded off. Yeah, and then Renee, kind of similar thing. Renee's not as bad. Like, at least with Renee, we kind of know where he ends up. You know, Hoss for mayor. Can't go wrong with that, really. Hopefully we get to see... I mean, I do wish we would have seen a bit of hair growth by the end of the season, because that has been largely unexplored. I think that, you know, we need the origin story of that amazing hair. But yeah, should we talk about the final scene?
Yeah, let's do it. They finally did it. They killed off Felicity. I waited for this moment for 4 years.
Right. Before I fully complain, I'd just like to say that why is the Monitor alive?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Died. Hello. Yeah, that made no sense, but whatever. I mean, it goes along with the quality of this finale.
I don't really know. I can't really. Why are you expecting me to explain how he's still alive?
No, I'm expecting you to explain your thoughts on the final scene of the.
Oh well, like I already said, it was great because the Felicity's dead. No, we finally did it, boys. We did it. No, I thought it was. I think the scene in of itself, if you just look at it just on its own, I think it was a nice way to end those two characters, because at the end of the day, even though I don't want to accept it, I had to admit to the fact that obviously they were going to end it with Oliver and Felicity together. So I think ending it with the two of them in the afterlife, given what they did in Crisis, was the only real way they could end those characters, because it's nice, but it's also bittersweet as well, because they finally get to be together, albeit in the afterlife. I'm still confused as to why Felicity would just abandon her kids in the future. So she's like, oh yeah, I want to die now. I want to go. No, fuck my kids. That bit doesn't make sense to me at all. It never did at the end of season 7. And yeah, why the Monitor's alive? No clue at all. No clue at all. Unless it's something like the Reverse Flash, when he was like removed from existence at the end of season 1, and then they explain that all the events prior to that he still has to exist for the timeline to stay stable, unless it's something like that for the Monitor. I can't think of any other reason as to how the fuck he's still alive. unless he's just done sod all in this universe. But I don't know. But yeah, the scene in itself I thought was good, and also because it made Felicity people mad, because it's like, oh, Felicity's dead, and they all are outrage online, and I'm just sat there in the back of my chair going, hey, pricks. So yeah. Although it was a very good scene, very nice scene to end the show with. It's just like you say, when you look deeper into it, that's where the problems start to lie.
It seems dumb.
Really? Oh, damn! This man's going hard.
Sorry, I'm not even like a Felicity hater. I like Felicity as a character. I don't have an issue with Felicity necessarily. The fans are a different question, but the concept itself I don't hate, except for in season 4 it's dreadful. But so I mean, like you, I knew it was going to end with Oliver and Felicity. We all just knew that. That's how it was going to end. Makes perfect sense. But and I don't even mind the concept of it, like the idea of them going back to the office where Oliver first saw her and stuff like that. Even though, again, that still doesn't really make sense because back then, because that was all a retcon anyway. Because if you remember, like back in season 2,
yeah,
Oliver didn't actually love Felicity. He just said it to trick Slade, and then the next season they just retconned it.
Yeah,
when they brought him back to Starling for that one episode.
Yeah.
So even
don't worry. I realized that even more.
Yeah.
Like I just jumped from season 2 to season 3. I'm like, where the fuck did this come from?
It doesn't even make sense there, but whatever. Let's just say it did for the sake of argument. Like, the idea of that doesn't even bother me. It's the bloody afterlife thing. Oh god, I hate it so much. This show started as a grounded, realistic take on the superhero genre. Why is this in the afterlife? The afterlife is not a viable concept to me. It's not something that I can prove that exists. It might exist. I don't know. I've not died, but I mean, I might have done after this.
Yeah, but that's like saying Ragman's powers. How can they be plausible? How could they exist in real life?
Work on the show. That's why they wrote him off.
So why are you fanboying over Ragman every time he appears on Arrow? Exactly.
But I've always said he.
And then you have that, and then Dinah with the Canary Cry, Black Siren with the Canary Cry.
Yeah,
do you have problems with them?
If this was back in like what Arrow started off as, yeah. But I think because like even back in season 2 when they first introduced the Canary Cry, it was a device. It wasn't a metahuman power.
Yeah, but I think naturally they had to evolve the show with the introduction of the Flash, because they obviously at that point they established that there are these metahumans in the world. And I think every show in a way has to evolve at some point. It couldn't have. So if it was literally just dark, gritty, and then all of a sudden within a split second, it's just metahumans everywhere, all these crazy things happen, you have the afterlife thrown in. If you're looking at it from that perspective, yeah, it's jarring. But it's the fact that they have eased all of these elements in between these 8 seasons. So for me, I wasn't as annoyed by it because of the fact that Arrow has slowly progressed from that ultra realistic show to in season 2 they had the Mirakuru. In season 3 they had the League of Assassins and these metahumans. In season 4 they had magic, and then from there they've continuously pushed in these elements within the show, so that when I see something like this, it didn't feel all that jarring to me personally, because of the way that the whole universe and how they've done it in Arrow, how they've established these elements. So I know, like for you, because obviously the fact that you love season 1 and you love the tone of it, like people like that, I can understand why they don't like something like this, because obviously it is very far from what that was. But as for someone who likes the way that they've introduced these otherworldly things into this show, it didn't personally bother me as much, and I didn't. It was a concept that I could apply. Like, this is not me getting any religious or anything, but I liked the way that they did it.
But I think it's comparable to season 4 in the sense that season 4 was way too far for the show, and they recognised that, hence why we got the response that was season 5. And I think season 8 is comparable. I think season 8 is just, as a whole, it's introduced all these elements that are just not Arrow. I mean, yeah, Arrow has started to fold in these elements from the other shows, and it started to become a bit more comic booky, which again, that sense of evolution I would expect with the show.
But I like the Green Arrow comic books, so when I see stuff like this, because I'm like you, where your first forte into the Green Arrow was with this show, for me it wasn't, because I read the comics. So when I see things like this and added into the show, maybe that because of that, I take to it more lightly than you do. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know,
I
but
think it comes back to another problem I have with the season as a whole, which is I don't think that Oliver needed to die. And on
yeah,
top of
I'll
that,
agree. I'll agree with that because I remember, didn't I think it was. I think I brought it up like they could have just done it like a Captain America style, where
yeah,
he got to live with Felicity and or even Dark Knight, where he just fakes his death. They could have honestly just done that because I don't agree with what Guggenheim said. Yeah,
he dies and then he's living in the afterlife, so he gets to live happily ever after with Felicity. Why did he die then? You could have just done that anyway. They did that at the end of season 7. Why did he have to die then? What was the point?
probably. But I see it from that.
The I am Iron Man moment.
Yeah, I mean, the only way I can think about it is because of the fact that they wanted to pay off the whole line about I have to become something else, and the fact that Oliver's always this selfless. He's become this selfless person who'll do anything to save people. I guess that's what they were trying to hide and might. Again, I don't fully hate the way that they did it. I still think the way it ended off his character was okay, and I still enjoyed it. But like you say, if for me personally, if I was writing this show, I wouldn't have killed off Oliver. I wouldn't have killed him off just because I don't think you necessarily needed to do it.
I mean, I bring it back to Stephen Amell's comments on Michael Rosenbaum's podcast.
Yeah, I've seen this.
He said that, after season 7, he was done. He said that he felt season 7 was the logical conclusion to the show, and he only did season 8 because it would be fiscally irresponsible for him to do so. I completely agree. Like, in my headcanon, I genuinely see season 7 as the legit ending of the show.
But the thing is, if that was the case, it'd be a pretty fucking wank to the show because season 7 is by no means a great season.
No, not necessarily, but I think that ending works really well.
Yeah, but the actual episode in of itself, the actual finale we got was crap because it was literally just random events happening, forced plot development. Basically, the same issues that you had with this finale for this season apply for that finale as well for that season, where things rushed, plot lines rushed.
I think that comes into further elements that were issues with that season and this season, where again in season 7 they were trying to rush to get into this crisis development, which is why they had Oliver go away with the Monitor. They did know back then because that's when they hired Kat that they were going to do the spin-off, so they had to set all that stuff up. I think had they have not had those elements, we could have had a more refined, sort of finale there and a refined season overall, because you could have cut the flash forwards and then we could have had better time. Because I do agree, season 7 is by no means the strongest season to end on. But I think that ending, like the concept of that ending, like Oliver and Felicity moving away to raise their newborn daughter, that's the kind of ending I would expect for a show like this, and what I would think fits the character of Oliver Queen. Not him becoming this godlike being and killing another godlike being, and then dying, and then creating a multiverse, and then that god who he just sacrificed himself for coming back to life for no reason. And yeah. Oh god, I'm not up to date with Game of Thrones, but I imagine this is what the fans felt like.
No. The season 8 Game of Thrones was way worse than this. I'll tell you that for a fact.
I mean, I'm very close with someone who absolutely adores Game of Thrones, and I mean, I already know what she's been like ever since the show ended. But this is my Game of Thrones.
No, you're overblowing this too hard.
Well, I mean, let's dive into the season then. Let's get into season 8 as a whole. So I think that, I think a couple of things I've already addressed, so I'll just go through them again quickly. I think Oliver's death, again, didn't need to happen. And while I don't mind the moment itself of him saying, like, you have failed this universe, I think that was a cool death line.
And the second death I thought was good. The first death, underwhelming. Because if you've seen, there's a video by, have you heard of a YouTuber called Brown Table?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's his video on it. Yeah, his video on it with the deaths and how they should have done it in Crisis, I completely agree with.
Yeah, I've watched that
video. With Oliver, they should have like deliberately teased us with his death, like going into these moments where, oh shit, we think he can die. And then with Barry, like, because of the fact that we obviously know he's not going to die because his show ain't ending. I just feel like if they'd done it like that, it would have worked a lot better, rather than just killing him at the end of the first episode, then having him disappear for basically 2 episodes. Yeah, it was a shame how they did it. Like I say, and I'll reiterate this again, I still enjoyed his ending, but it's not the perfect way for it. But then, for me, it then comes down to this debate of like, oh, it's not what I expected. It's not what I'd written in my head. You know, it's the whole Game of Thrones season 8 / Last Jedi thing of like, oh, this isn't how I wanted it to be. I'm going to go into a hissy fit about it. I enjoyed the way that it happened, and for what the path they ultimately chose to go down by ending his character, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. Not utterly 100% pleased by it, but I was happy with it. And plus, Arrow had the best episode of the crossover this season. I don't think there's any competition about that, so there is that to say for the season. Like, but by far the best episode. I mean, it had the best cameos that didn't take away from the story. The episode had an actual story. The episode had actual stakes. It had great cinematography and visuals. And yeah, I consider that to be the end of the crossover.
We don't need to talk about Bieber. I mean, for me, I think season 8 was just a complete misfire because they just...
No, because I remember you fanboying like shit over the first 7 episodes, so I will automatically say that your opinion's bullshit.
This is the thing, right? This is the thing. I have no shame in saying I enjoyed these individual episodes. I enjoyed them. They were a lot of fun, especially because it was the best of Arrow. They brought back all the characters. And for that, I mean, even though I still don't particularly love the way it was handled, there were at least legit reasons why we were seeing these characters back. But I enjoyed the individual. Like, episode 1 of this season is fantastic. I have no issue in saying that. Episode 6 is fantastic. 7's great. So I liked the individual episodes. I have no issue with those. But I think season 8 comes across as a misfire because I don't think there was any actual creative energy from the writers of Arrow to actually make this a season of Arrow. It's just a Crisis prelude. That's all it is. It's just there to set up Crisis. Like, because literally, you can't even argue with it because the entire storyline of the season is built up to Crisis. It's all surrounding his death. The main villain of this is essentially the Monitor. It's him being, Oliver, go here, do this, go there and collect that, do this for me, do that for me.
Yeah, but in between all of that, I still do think there is development happening. Like with Oliver, it's him accepting fate, accepting that he can't change because he's been a character that naturally wants to, who won't give up, who won't stop.
Tell that
and
to Dinah.
Yeah, I'll admit those characters didn't get a load of development. I mean, at least with Renee, they at least like pushed towards where the end point was with him, which was to have him become the mayor. So at least Renee had that. Dinah, while I will fully agree, yeah, should have got more. I don't think they should have just relied on banking that the spin-off was going to get picked up so they could do more with her character. Because if it doesn't, then I think she's definitely had the short end of the stick. I mean, she's had the short end of the stick since season 6.
Yeah.
So.
I'm actually not optimistic this show's going to get picked up now.
Neither am I, to be fair, because I've seen I only just realised how much competition they've got for it. Yeah. Like, they've got a lot of
yeah, CW's got a lot going on, and there hasn't been a confirmation yet. So
yeah, I think the only thing that it's got going for it is the fact that it was one of the higher rated episodes of this season.
I think it was the highest, wasn't it, outside of like the crossover?
Yeah, I think it might have been.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to remember if the premiere got more views than I can't remember.
I think I'm seeing it was the highest of the season, but yeah, I think that the reason why the season just comes across as a misfire is that, again, it just didn't feel like a season of Arrow. It was there just to set up Crisis and set up the
spin-off. Yeah. It's I agree with that. It's definitely not. It doesn't feel like a season of Arrow. It definitely feels like trying to wrap up elements with these characters, but also trying to set up Crisis, whilst also on the side trying to lay foundations for the spin-off. Which I think we could both agree with. Obviously, I know that you didn't like the fact that it was to set up the Crisis, but I think we can agree that the fact it spent way too much time setting up the spin-off was even worse. Because at least with Crisis, it was something that logistically we got a payoff, and it was something that logistically the shows had been hyping up, and because it was this big event, it made sense because of that payoff. Whereas with spending so much time with Mia this season, which I definitely agree should have been used for other characters like Dinah and like Diggle in some aspects, definitely.
Because I think the Flash did it much better, because the Flash
this
season has also been very heavy for Crisis setup. It
But they had a
was
villain who
yeah,
but they had a
he
villain
had
who
his
was
own
basically
story.
like a parallel.
Yeah, because it's
It didn't need to be involved to Crisis because like Ramsey had nothing to, but his reasonings for what he's doing completely relates to what Barry is doing.
yeah, it's very, I think, like you say, they had the perfect balance of having a story that they could focus on their own while also setting up Crisis. There were two things going on. Arrow had the storyline with Crisis, but then instead of having its own storyline, the other storyline that it had was setting up the spin-off. It was all setup stuff. There was no wrapping up. So
Yeah, I mean, to be
they
fair,
kind of
episode
did what
seven for me felt like more of a series finale in terms of Oliver wrapping up relationships with like the main cast itself.
Yeah, because
And
that
then
last scene he had with Diggle was fantastic.
yeah, and then he has like a last scene with William and Mia and all of that. For me, and this is going to sound like a cop-out excuse, but I honestly see the whole final season as basically an extended finale because the fact that they drag out a lot of these, last moments between these characters over these 10 episodes, which has its pros and cons because of obviously you have like, you get at least something in every episode, but at the same time, it does make your season a little bit clustered in some areas because, like you say, like you're having these goodbyes with these characters in episode 7, and then in 10, you're getting goodbyes with other characters. It's just, yeah, I think that was the problem with it, the way that they structured the whole season as to like how Oliver says farewell to these people. It was just very up and down to me.
Because I think, I mean, I realize that I am an Arrow fanboy, right? I know this because I don't even hate season 4, but
no, that's bullshit.
It's one of these things where I, as a salty fanboy, I wanted the show to end a certain way. I wanted
exactly. So basically, you're in the same position.
I wanted my show to end like it started. I wanted it to feel like a genuine ending for the show by it feeling like itself. And to see it completely squander that by just going on one final season for essentially no reason that had essential reason for the plot, it just comes across as it's weird to me. It's weird to me that they just completely went this direction, and they should have just ended it last season because I would have been happy with that at that point.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't have been happy with it compared to this season to last season. No, I wouldn't have been happy with it.
And I think it's just obvious because clearly Stephen Amell thought the same thing. He didn't want to come back for this season. He said that.
Yeah, but you don't. Yeah, but that might have been his initial thoughts. That might have been what he initially thought at the time, because that's what he says when he says at that moment. He's like, at the time when he was offered the money, that seemed like a plausible option. So there's every bit of a chance that after then, when he's actually shown the script for the final episodes, he's like, actually, yeah, there's a reason for this. So I think I understand what he's saying in that regard, but I do think people are digging way too deep into it. Because I've seen like another interview he did where basically he was if later on in the podcast he talks about the way that they filmed the crossovers and how he personally wasn't a big fan of it, and everyone's like, oh, Stephen Amell's hating. No, he's just basically saying that like, I don't agree with how they filmed this, but that's just from a personal point of view of if I was directing something. And like you say, yeah, maybe he did think season 7 was the logical ending point, but there's every chance that after he signed on for season 8, got his paycheck and looked at the script, is like, actually, no, this is actually, in his head, he could have thought, oh, this is actually a good ending for this character.
I mean, I guess we'll just have to wait and see if he says anything about
it. Yeah, I would be interested if someone actually asked him that question of like, how did your opinions on how the show, how you wanted to end it, did it change after you read the script for season 8? That's what I'd want to know.
Stephen, come to MCM in the UK this summer, and I'll ask you that question because I would like to know.
Yeah, because I'm genuinely interested if that's the case. Because I'd say that off topic slightly, that podcast was incredible.
Oh, it's fantastic.
That one that he had with it was brilliant, and I commend the guy for having a panic attack halfway through and then having the balls to come back and finish it off.
Yeah.
The man is a legend. I mean, we should know because we've met him.
Yeah, I mean, it just adds to my respect for Stephen.
Yeah.
Even more. And that's the thing. Like, it's not even like Stephen wasn't into this season. Like, this season is some of the best acting he's ever done on the show.
Yeah.
Some of the scenes he does with this, especially because he does have the scenes with his kids and stuff like that. It's some of the best stuff he's done. So it's not that Stephen wasn't asked. He clearly gave the performance he wanted to give for this final season. So I can't slate him at all. He did a fantastic job here. It's just for me personally, as a fan of the show, I don't like it.
Nah.
I
definitely think if you looked at the episode, I think you're looking at a god tier season. But then when you see how they interweave them, it's not the best. I mean, if I were to give this season a rating, I'd probably give it. I'd probably say an 8 for me. I wouldn't give it a 9. If it was just basically on solo episodes, I'd probably give it a 9. But like you say, I do agree that like with the amount of like niggling issues I have with it and the way they interweave the plot lines, I'd probably give the season overall an 8. If I'm being honest, like because the thing is, there are some amazing episodes in this. Like the first episode of the season, in my opinion, I don't really care about the flash forwards because the fact that they were only there for 3 episodes, so I find them pretty irrelevant in terms of looking back on that premiere. So that premiere for me is a 10 out of 10. I genuinely can't fault it. I enjoy that. I love that premiere. I love episode 6, probably one of my top 10 favorite episodes. I really like episode 7. I really like 2 and 3 as well. The only episodes of this season that I don't love are probably 4 and 5 because of the fact that they're the 2 episodes where I feel like they focused. Pardon?
What about 9?
I actually quite enjoyed 9.
I enjoyed 9 as well. I didn't expect you did.
Yeah, I enjoyed 9. First half of the episode is definitely has its problems. They try and overflow us way too much with information because obviously I understand why, because it's a pilot, you want to set up all these things. But I think the way they did it and the rate of which they were doing it, it was actually kind of hard to keep up with. Like, because every 10 seconds it felt like we were going to a different place. And I was like, hang on, I just need to rewind. I think I missed something, especially the whole bit with how Dinah got there. I mean, I understand why, because obviously they want to have something to set up as a mystery for the show. But no, the second half of it I enjoyed a lot more. I really liked, even though it made me laugh when that guy literally ran all the way to the rooftop just to kill himself, just so he could set himself on fire. Oh my god. Yeah, that was fucking stupid, but no, I enjoyed it. I say, I understand. I completely understand. I can understand why someone wouldn't like this season, because I will 100% agree that it is very far from perfect. So when I hear you complaining about it, I completely understand. I just don't agree with you arguing that it's potentially worse than season 4.
Yeah, I mean, I knew that was going to be a tough sell for you. But I mean, I'm not gonna lie about it. I think that, I have my opinion, I have my thoughts, and I genuinely the reason why I genuinely put season 4. I mean, this is a spoiler for my ranking video. I know I said you can wait for it, but I'll tell you now.
No, do not do this.
I genuinely have season 8 at the bottom of the list, and I think it's because at least season 4 felt like Arrow.
No, it didn't.
It felt more than this.
It didn't feel like Arrow.
It did more than this.
Oh my god.
It did more than this.
No, you need to rewatch that season to remember.
Barely in his suit this season.
At least he can fight this season. He couldn't fight in season 4. He was losing to some lady cop and random thugs on the streets.
I mean, fair dues.
It had Olicity, which nearly killed the whole show. They killed off Laurel. Fucking Andy Diggle was a crap character. The only good thing about him was the chemistry with him and Diggs. Literally that storyline and Laurel were the only two things that whole season. Thea, crap, had nothing to do with her. The whole master plan of killing whole of Star City with corn, stupid. The finale is one of the worst finales I've ever seen in any TV show ever. In fact, that whole last block of episodes, in fact, the whole back half of the season, I have not watched since it aired, which was almost 4 years ago. That should tell you how bad it is. Now, Dec, no. I honestly would say you need to put yourself through the pain of rewatching season 4 to truly understand how awful it is. Because you've only watched it the once, haven't you?
I have, yeah.
yeah, I've watched it twice. Well, twice and a half. So I would honestly say you do need to rewatch again because I can tell you, for me personally, that I can understand why you don't like season 8, but it is not worse than season 4. You put it second to bottom. I can semi agree with that. I can semi understand not putting it at the bottom now. Not for me.
Just gotta be honest, man. Gotta be honest.
No.
That's how I feel.
You're gonna get so much slander in your ranking.
Great.
Have you prepared yourself?
Well, I mean, nothing will ever top my Aquaman review, and people tell me to kill myself. So.
Oh, that they were the glory days.
They were good days. Yeah.
Oh, nah, you don't. Nah, to be fair, I've had them worse.
Ocean Master.
Oh, I remember them during my my lovely Arrow mid-season 6 finale rant review with the face cam and all the Olicity fans that bombarded me. It wasn't even on YouTube because I think some like Olicity page on Facebook got a hold of my video. This was about 3 months after I first uploaded it, and then they put it on the chat. And then all of a sudden, I was getting bombarded. I never told you about this. I just ended up getting bombarded with Facebook messages from Olicity fans because somehow they're able to find my Facebook accounts saying your opinion is bullshit. I hope you die. I was like, listen, not only this is this deep because you found my Facebook account, but I mean, just calm down. I mean, that episode was wank. I did have a point.
I mean, that's my favorite thing about doing YouTube. It's just when you manage to piss everyone off. It's great, and everyone just comes after you because of your opinion. It's like I say, I mentioned this before we started recording. I had a comment, someone saying that they now no longer will watch my channel because of my opinion, even though they respect it. I'm like, well, clearly you don't. Because if you did, then you wouldn't be acting like this, little boy.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So anyway. Is that everything you want to talk about season 8?
I think I'll do my ranking of all the seasons.
Okay, go on then.
You don't have to put. I don't want you to put yours here because I don't for everyone on your channel. But for me to rank the seasons, I think 4 comfortably last place because it's one of the worst seasons of TV I've ever watched. The only things I can think of that were worse are season 7 of The Walking Dead, Inhumans, and the last season of Dexter. They're literally the only things I can think of that were worse than this. 7 would be season 3. I mean, I don't even think season 3 is bad. I think it's just a bang average season. Because the first 9 episodes, I think, are all right. And then after that, it just slowly gets worse. 6, because the first 17 episodes are wildly inconsistent in quality. And then the last 6 episodes basically save the season. Then I'd have 7. Probably the most disappointing season for me personally. Because the first 8 episodes were so good. And then as soon as you got out of the prison, they just had no idea what to do. It was almost just like that. They just had that. They had wrote all of their effort in that first 8 episodes. And afterwards, just like, oh yeah, we've still got 40 more episodes to go, guys. What do we do? It's like, oh yeah, it's just to make Emiko the main villain for whatever reason. Let's put Dante in. Let's make Dante the villain. Let's put the knife circle in. But we won't actually develop them. Or some random member will go ahead and kill Emiko at the end of the season. But you'll never see her again.
Oh,
you'll never see the knife circle again. Oh my.
Beatrice,
man. I'm gonna even say it. I'm gonna say this right now. And I'm not sure if you'll agree with me on this, but Emiko is the worst villain we've ever had on Arrow. The worst villain that we've had. I think she's worse than Damien Dark. I think she's worse than Caden James. Simply because she wasn't threatening for me personally. I didn't find her a threat at all, and I don't think the actress was particularly that good. She wasn't very good at being threatening, so I just didn't buy into her as a villain.
Thing is with Damien Dark, right? Damien Dark isn't a bad villain. He just didn't work for Arrow.
He didn't work for Arrow, and his whole his plan about destroying Starling City with Korn is stupid.
Yeah, because after he went to Legends, he was an absolute god.
Yeah, when he went to Legends, he worked fine, but it was like with Arrow, they had this over-the-top character, this mystical character, and they just tried to find any plausible excuse to make it so that he could fight the Green Arrow, which ended up making either him look like a dumbass or the Green Arrow look like a dumbass, based on who would win. So yeah, it just didn't work.
Yeah, because I
But
never. I
but
mean,
the thing was
Neil
that
McDonough, but
the
like
performance
I
by
never
Neil
thought him as
McDonough
a brother of
saved.
assassins.
Yeah, his performance basically prevents his villain from being god awful.
Yeah, at least he was
And
having fun.
the same with Michael Emerson, because he was good in the role. It's just him as a villain was wank. Emiko doesn't have that at all for me. So yeah, that's probably the most disappointing season for me personally. Then I go season 5 again. I don't think season 5 is like amazing. So sorry, no, sorry. I got season 8. Season 8. I've definitely not been drinking before this.
That's gonna be a whole other argument.
No, season 8 then. Like I said, I don't think season 8 is a great season. Sorry, no. Sorry, I don't think it's amazing. It's just great, but I wouldn't quite say it's like a 9 out of 10. It's an 8 for me. Then I go season 5. Fucking amazing things within it, but there's also quite a few terrible episodes. Like the mid-season premiere is awful. The gun control episode's awful. I mean, still better. It's still better than Supergirls, but that's literally the only positive I can give it. Because at least it didn't make me laugh. Like the Supergirl one. Actually, no. In that regard, at least the Supergirl one made me laugh because of how awful it was. So maybe this one was worse. You cannot deny. I mean, I don't think we can deny the fact that we found that episode so funny for all the wrong reasons.
Oh god, I mean,
especially that scene where the gunman is up against him, and then it's just like, oh my god, the acting
and the promo. Do you remember the promo with the music? Remember that? What an exciting week that was! Oh god, I just remember being so happy.
I remember we saw that trailer. And we just knew it was going to be like The Room gun control.
we knew we were about to experience god tier content on Supergirl.
And I mean, it was god tier. That might be for me.
The season 5 CGI from earlier this season, like, just.
I mean, to be fair, I've probably rewatched that episode of Supergirl any other episode.
Yeah.
I've rewatched that more than Rain, and Rain's probably one of the best episodes. God.
We're actually going to stick around Supergirl this season because Rain's coming back.
I know. I saw that.
Your girl's coming back for the 100th episode.
I'll watch it just simply for the banshee. I'll do that anyway. But yeah, that gun control episode of Arrow was crap. The bunker episode was crap. But yeah, it's kind of also counteracted by the god tier episodes that are in there. And Prometheus, yeah. Second favorite Arrow villain for me personally. But yeah, it's a good season. Then second place, season 1. Very consistent season. I wouldn't say there's a single episode in there that for me is bad or mediocre. All episodes are at least good. The only real thing I'll have is that like there's not that many standout episodes. Like when I think back to season 2 or even 5, there's more standout moments from it. Like there's more moments that are really memorable to me. With season 1, the only ones for me are 16 when Oliver reveals himself to Tommy and the finale, and maybe the penultimate episode. Other than that, not really much else really sticks with me. And maybe the pilot, but that's because it's where it all began. And also, I thought Thea was annoying in that season. But yeah, I love season 1, and also because it has Laura, and I'm a Laura shipper, so I get extra brownie points. And then number 1 for me, season 2. For me, it's 10 out of 10. I can't fault season 2 at all. If I were to do like my top 10 superhero seasons, like TV show seasons of all time, it would be Daredevil season 3, then Daredevil season 1, and then Arrow season 2. It's perfect. I can't honestly find a single problem with it.
I think it's fair. Yeah.
So yeah, that'll be mine for now, and I'm pretty sure it will stay like that. I think the only one that can change is probably season 8, but I doubt it'll probably go from where it is. I think it'll probably sit there at 4.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty solid ranking that a lot of people will agree with. Can't say the same about mine.
Yeah, nah. I think I've seen your ranking, and like to be fair, like the top 3, I can't argue with, because to be fair, that the 5. 2 and 1 are interchangeable. If anybody were to put either of those seasons in any position in the top 3, I can't argue with it.
Yeah, I have season 5 at number 3, but if someone put that at number 1, I'd be like, fair enough.
Yeah, yeah. Because I'll admit, like even with season 8, I still think there's a big gap in quality between 8 and 5. Like there is no way it would ever break into the top 3 just because those seasons. I think it's also harder because of the fact that season 8's only 10 episodes, and then you're comparing them to all of these seasons that have 22 to 23 episodes. That already makes it way harder for me personally, because I have to give credit to those top 3 seasons for how consistent they were for like double the length, which is pretty fucking hard to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but no, those top 3 are all god tier seasons. Like they are the GOAT seasons of this show.
They really are, and they were the glory days.
Yeah, should have ended with season 5. If they'd ended with that finale, honestly, if they'd just been like, "Oh yeah, we're canceling," after that season 5 finale, I would have been fine.
Yeah, I mean, I would have been, a bit annoyed, because I feel like we could have done it with a bit more development.
We could have just we'll just get a title card at the end, just saying they all died.
Yeah, they just all died. Like, fine. At least we ended on the best episode of the series. Yeah, spoiler for my top 10 episodes. But yeah, I guess that brings this to a close. Very fiery episode. I know that. I know I'm in the minority. But I've got to speak my opinion. I've got to be honest. As far as a finale goes, and as far as a wrap up goes, and as far as an ending to my favorite series of all time goes, I was let down significantly.
No, I'm trying to remember. Have you, other than this and Banshee, like how many other shows have you actually finished? Like with proper series finales.
Yeah.
We're not counting comedies like The Office either. I mean, as in like proper.
Yeah, I mean, given the fact that this is all pretty new to me, and it's stuff that's come around in the last couple of years, yeah, not many. I mean, I guess the Marvel Netflix shows don't really count.
I mean, the Daredevil one was pretty good. Considering they didn't even know that was the last episode.
Yeah, like I said this when it got cancelled. Like, or I think I even said this before it got cancelled. Like when we all knew it was basically going to. I remember saying like, if it does get cancelled, I'm fine. I mean, I would obviously love another season, but if that's how it ends, I'm fine. And I think Punisher ends all right as well. Punisher ends okay. I mean, Iron Fist is a different question entirely.
Yeah, Iron Fist just.
I haven't seen Jessica Jones season 3 yet. I haven't actually watched it because it's one of those things where I don't feel like a rush to watch it because I'm just like, there's nothing to, there's no time limit on it. So I'm just like,
also because season 2 was just so meh.
Oh god, season 2.
Trish. I have seen season 3.
Thoughts?
Yeah, it was better than season 2, but again, it was a very forgettable season. Oh, it's one of those shows where you watch it at the moment, in the moment, and you're just like, oh yeah, this is okay, it's all right. And then you get to about a week after watching it, and you're just like, you're already forgetting so much about it. Which is the only thing that I remember about it. The only scene that really sticks with me is like in the finale where. Do you mind being spoiled?
No. Yes, I do.
Yes, you do. All right, no, that's okay then. Well, there's a fight that happens in because it was a really good climax to what they'd set up the whole season, and then the final scene. Because I won't spoil it, but the final scene was good, even though it ends the show on a really crappy note. I liked certain elements of it.
Well, that's something to look forward to, isn't it?
Yeah, but yeah, like I say, it's better than season 2, but I don't really think it's anything to shout about. Nah, not a touch on season 1. The show should have literally just been a 1-season thing.
I mean, it makes sense because like her character was literally so integral to the villain of that season. So it's
to kill him off basically just ended any potential that the show had.
Yeah, they should have just kept him around. They should have just kept. I mean, I get David Tennant's obviously busy. He's a busy actor, but he could have tried harder, Marvel. Anyway, I guess that draws this to a close. If you have any of your own thoughts on season 8, make sure you let us know in the comment section down below. What did you think of it? How did you feel about it? Are you like Dan and you're very positive about it, or are you like me and thought it was bad? Let us know your thoughts.
The roles have reversed.
Indeed they have. Indeed they have. I never thought I'd see this day come. If anybody was if you would have asked me a year ago who's gonna hate season 8, it would have been you. It would have definitely been you. But no, it's your boy, Mr. Positive, over here, who ends up hating on the final season of his favorite show of all time.
We are definitely on Earth Prime.
Definitely on Earth Prime now. And make sure you leave your rankings of the Arrow seasons in the comment section down below. If any of you put season 8 at the bottom, you're a hero and you're a true intellectual. If you don't, well, I don't know what to say. I'm disappointed in you lot. So anyway, thank you guys for listening to this episode of On a Night Podcast. If you want to see more, make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss uploads. And as always, I've been Dec.
I have been Dan.
And we hope to see you guys again next time, whenever that may be.